I'm Clara Vance. I was reborn. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the Sterling estate on the day they were choosing a bride for Ethan Sterling. The first thing I smelled was an overly sweet scent. I looked up to see Rachel, my father's second wife, approaching with a bowl of sweet soup. She wore a kindly smile. Clara, drink this. It'll bring some color back. You need to look presentable before meeting the Sterling elders. I stared at the bowl. Every hair on my body stood on end. In my past life, I drank this drugged sweet soup, and my face flushed before the Sterling family. I could barely get a word out. They deemed me frivolous and I lost my chance. Later, I was betrothed to a distant Sterling relative, Julian Reed. He was brutal, beating and berating me at every turn. Within 3 years, like his 5 wives before me, I died in a pauper's graveyard. And my half-sister, Sophia Vance, married into the Sterling family without a hitch. Rachel seized control of the Vance family businesses. The Vance main line was ruined by those two. I buried my hatred and fixed a cold gaze on Sophia beside me. Her features were strikingly like Rachel's, especially the beauty mark at her eye when she smiled. They were almost identical. Rachel kept urging me, "Drink up before it gets cold." I reached for the bowl, but I didn't drink. Instead, I turned to Sophia and raised it. "Sis, I offer this soup as a toast. No matter which of us is chosen, we'll have to support each other and bring honor to the Vance family." Sophia clearly froze for a moment. A flicker of panic crossed her eyes. She must have known something was wrong with the soup. Sure enough, she quickly waved it off. "Don't be so polite, Clara. I had a big breakfast, more would make me bloated. What if I embarrass myself later?" I couldn't help laughing. I deliberately raised my voice. "Don't be like that, sis. You always tell me to eat more, saying a fuller figure looks better on a woman. So why won't you take even one sip?" The atmosphere in the room instantly turned icy. My father frowned and was about to speak. Rachel suddenly cried, "Oh," and deliberately brushed her hand against the table's edge. I let go at just the right moment. The bowl hit the floor with a sharp clatter. Shards flew everywhere. The sweet soup spilled all over the floor. Rachel instantly put on an aggrieved look. She glared at me. "Clara, you're about to meet your elders. Why are you still so careless? What if it splashed on your sister? What if it delayed the auspicious hour?" As she spoke, she pulled Sophia over for a close inspection. The concern on her face made my chest tighten. I stood there, staring at the sweet soup on the floor. I knew this was only the first step. I would avenge every wrong from my past life, one by one. Rachel, Sophia, and everyone else who had hurt me, I would spare not a single one. After the sweet soup shattered, Rachel fussed over Sophia, while Dad frowned and scolded me for being thoughtless, then rushed us to get ready for Sterling Manor. On my way back to my room, the truths I'd ignored in my past life came surging back like a tide. I finally understood. Rachel had never truly loved my father, Edward. She married into the Vance family solely to seize control of its businesses. And Sophia, for years, she'd deliberately picked out gaudy clothes for me, then caked my face in rouge, making me look like a ridiculous clown. She kept putting me down and stopped me from learning to run the household, afraid I'd steal her chance and block their path into high society. In my past life, I died horribly in a mass grave. The Vance family's main line was destroyed. They had caused it all. I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms. Hatred surged through me, but I dared not show it. This time, I won't let anyone control me. I have to protect myself, and take back control of the Vance family. I'll make that mother and daughter pay. I took off the outfit Rachel had chosen for me, a garish yellow and green ensemble. Then I brought out the simple silk gown Grandma left me. The fabric was plain cotton and linen, but clean and sharp. I also washed the heavy rouge from my face and revealed my natural complexion. As I faced the mirror, I remembered Grandma teaching me to write. She was a master of calligraphy. She used to say calligraphy could cultivate one's spirit and help one stand on one's own. I unrolled my practice sheet, gripped the brush, and began writing, stroke by stroke. My brushwork was a little rusty, but it held my resolve to start anew. Madame Sterling was passionate about calligraphy. It was my only advantage. It was also my leverage to escape my past fate and marry into the Sterling family. I had to seize this opportunity, establish my place, and carry out my revenge, one step at a time. At dawn the next day, Sophia and I left for Sterling Manor. The first branch sent Martha for us. She'd served the Sterlings for decades. She was shrewd and fiercely loyal to the family elders. Her eye was razor sharp. Sophia wore an ornate silk gown, her hair laden with jewels. She kept fixing her makeup in the mirror, lest she look less than perfect. I wore a simple silk gown. I shed the gaudy jewelry Rachel made me wear, keeping only a plain jade hairpin, simple and polished. I struck up a chat with Martha about Grandma's gift for calligraphy and regular script brushwork. I never flaunted it, but quietly shared my insights. Martha had seemed impassive, but when calligraphy came up, her eyes lit up, and she nodded along. She even shared Madame Sterling's tastes. Her tone grew warmer. She glanced at the overdressed Sophia, then at me. There was new interest in her eyes. She said nothing, but took note of everything. I knew someone as seasoned as Martha valued real talent above all, someone with her experience. As we neared Sterling Manor, I gazed at its grand gates. I recalled my past life. Here, I'd let my chance slip by and fallen into ruin. This time, I wouldn't repeat my mistakes. Grandma's lesson echoed in my mind. Calligraphy was more than an art. It was my foothold in this powerful family. I had to hold fast to that strength and win over the Sterling elders. Once we arrived at Sterling Manor, Martha took us to the parlor to wait. Keeping us away from Sophia, she secretly told me quite a bit about the Sterlings. Madame Sterling was the family's anchor. She had loved calligraphy all her life. She was strict by nature, and valued impeccable character above all. She admired women with real talent and learning. The eldest son, Ethan Sterling,
ran the family's core businesses despite his young age.
He was steady and shrewd, and disliked women who put on airs. Then there were Victoria and her son, Lucas. They had long coveted the family seat and fortune, and schemed in secret. They would surely interfere with this selection of the future Mrs. Sterling, trying to install their own candidate. My heart sank. In my past life, I only knew Rachel and Sophia had harmed me. I never realized the second branch was involved. This was clearly deeper than I'd imagined. Before long, the Sterling elders began to arrive. The first round was a personal interview. Sophia spoke up first. Her voice was soft and gentle, as she deliberately played the gracious, virtuous lady. Every word was designed to flatter the Sterling elders. She praised Sterling Manor's grandeur, then claimed she was skilled at running a household. Several elders nodded along, completely charmed. When it was my turn, I made no effort to flatter them. I simply rose with composure, and answered with perfect poise. The elders asked me what I thought of managing a wealthy household and running its businesses. I drew on what I'd witnessed in my past life and the knowledge I'd gained since being reborn. I explained my views with clarity, neither fawning nor backing down. When the conversation grew lively, I volunteered that I'd studied calligraphy with my grandma. I also said I knew of Madame Sterling's passion for it. My words were filled with genuine respect. Madame Sterling's eyes lit up at once. She immediately asked which styles I practiced. I answered each question. Approval appeared on her face. Beside her, Ethan also looked me over for a moment. There was less distance in his eyes, and more recognition. The first round came to an end. Both Sophia and I advanced without a hitch. But I clearly saw the way Sophia looked at me was filled with jealousy. On the way home from Sterling Manor, Sophia didn't say a word to me the entire ride. She looked grim. I figured she was angry I'd stolen her spotlight. As soon as we entered the Vance estate, Rachel hurried over to greet us. She fussed over Sophia first, and, once she knew Sophia was fine, she turned and glared at me. Her voice was thick with accusation. "Clara, were you out of your mind today? Who told you to show off your calligraphy in front of the Sterling elders? Couldn't you show some restraint and stop stealing your own sister's spotlight?" I stood there without answering, just watching her coldly. She wasn't afraid I'd steal Sophia's spotlight. She was afraid my calligraphy would earn recognition and ruin Sophia's chances of marrying into the Sterlings, along with their hopes of taking over the Vance family. When Rachel saw I wasn't responding, she sidled back over to Sophia, lowered her voice, and warned her to beat me at the next evaluation, no matter what it took. Sophia nodded obediently, pretending to agree, but a calculating glint flashed in her eyes. I saw it all clearly. After Rachel left, I quietly followed Sophia. Under cover of night, she slipped out to meet Mrs. Victoria Sterling's personal servant. They talked in an alley for quite some time, their faces guarded. My suspicions grew stronger. So they had been in league all along. Back in my room, I spread out a calligraphy copybook and practiced over and over, without daring to slack off. I knew the next evaluation would be harder. Rachel and Sophia would surely join forces against me. Only by growing stronger and honing my calligraphy could I counter their schemes, secure my place in the Sterling family, and protect my future and the Vance family's main line. It wasn't long before Martha quietly sent word confirming my suspicions. Sophia had indeed joined forces with Victoria. Victoria was paving Sophia's way into Sterling Manor, winning over the elders so she could marry into the Sterling family. Rachel was responsible for using the Vance family's money to fund the second branch's business ventures and help them build their power and suppress Ethan. Hearing this, my blood ran cold. In my previous life, being betrothed to Julian Reed and dying horribly in a mass grave had not been a coincidence. It was a conspiracy plotted by Rachel, Sophia, and the second branch. Julian had been one of the second branch all along. He survived by clinging to their protection. They chose him to torture me, so they could eliminate me, their biggest obstacle. But this time, I would never let them succeed. The Sterling family's second round of evaluations began soon after. This time, it was a talent showcase. All the Sterling family's key elders were there, along with Ethan himself. It was crucial. When Sophia's turn came, she chose to play the Gookin. Her technique was fairly polished, and she had chosen a graceful, moving piece to cultivate an air of dignified serenity. After her performance, Victoria applauded first and praised her. Many elders aligned with the second branch echoed her. Sophia looked utterly smug and shot me a challenging glance. I took a deep breath breath and stepped forward. Compared with Sophia's calculated attempt to please, I chose no flashy talent. I simply had brush, ink, paper, and inkstone set out. I said softly, "This junior is no great talent, but I'd like to write a birthday homage for you all, as a small token of my regard." As soon as I finished speaking, Sophia showed a look of disdain. She probably thought I could only write a few characters and could never beat her. But she didn't know that calligraphy was my most powerful weapon. I gripped the brush and dipped it in ink. I didn't panic at all. I recalled the strokes Grandma taught me before she passed. Each one was steady and strong. I dared not be careless. The tip touched the rice paper. The characters were neat and dignified, with powerful strokes. Every character reflected Grandma's legacy. The room gradually fell silent. The mocking voices disappeared. The elders all leaned in with astonishment in their eyes. Sophia's smug smile froze. Her face turned pale, then flushed. She never expected me to write so well. Victoria's expression darkened too. She said nothing more. She only glared at the characters on the rice paper. After writing the final character, I set down the brush and bowed. Madame Sterling hurried over and studied the calligraphy closely. A rare smile lit up her face. She kept praising my beautiful work. Beautiful work. Steady brushwork. Impeccable composition. The style of a true master. You truly are Madame Chu's granddaughter. She took my hand and asked about my calligraphy training. I answered honestly. When I spoke of Grandma's teachings, my words were filled with love and respect. Madame Sterling was deeply moved. She approved of me even more. Ethan Sterling watched me write the whole time. He couldn't hide his admiration.
When I rose, he spoke up. "Miss Vance not only writes beautifully, she has a rare, steady temperament."
The other elders nodded in approval. No one mentioned Sophia's Guchin again. Clearly, I had outshone her this round. Sophia stood to the side, her whole body rigid. Jealousy and hatred nearly spilled from her eyes. I knew that this round, I had won, but they would never let it go. After the talent showcase, I could clearly sense Rachel and Sophia's hostility. I was already on guard. I was extremely careful in my dealings, leaving them no opening to use against me. Yet they still came up with a dirty trick. A few days later, the Sterling family held its third evaluation. We were to spend half a day at Sterling Manor being assessed on our ability to manage a household. During a break, I went to the side hall for tea. I set my travel bag on the chair beside the table and paid close attention to everything around me. Before long, Sophia claimed she wasn't feeling well, and came to sit beside me in the side hall. She made small talk with me now and then, but her eyes kept drifting toward my bag. I knew exactly what she was up to. She was about to make her move. I deliberately pretended not to notice and got up to fetch some water, leaving her alone by the table. I didn't go far. I stood just a short distance away, keeping her in the corner of my eye. Sure enough, the moment I stepped away, Sophia quickly pulled a jeweled hairpin from her robe. When no one was watching, she quietly slipped it into my bag. Then she sat back in her seat and pretended nothing had happened. I recognized that hairpin. It was the one Victoria had given Sophia. Its design was distinctive, and it was extremely valuable, so it was easy to identify. Once Sophia had done all that, she soon began making a scene, claiming her hairpin was missing. It was a gift Victoria had bestowed on her, and it was extremely valuable. Everyone nearby was drawn over by her cries. Rachel showed up at just the right moment, pretending to comfort Sophia. Then she deliberately suggested that, since it was lost at Sterling Manor, we should search everyone's things. Maybe one of the young ladies had knocked it down by accident, found it, and kept it nearby. Sophia immediately agreed, while her eyes kept darting toward me. It was obvious they meant to frame me. I stood off to the side, my expression perfectly calm, already knowing exactly what to do. They wanted to ruin my reputation by framing me for theft, so I'd make them suffer the consequences. Sophia threw a fit insisting on searching everyone's parcels. Her tone was full of certainty, as if the hairpin had to be with me. Rachel fanned the flames nearby, telling the Sterling elders the hairpin was lost at the manor. If the hairpin isn't found, word will spread, and Sophia won't be the only one humiliated. It'll damage the Sterling family's reputation, too. We should report it and have it thoroughly investigated to clear everyone's name. Her words sounded fair, but she really wanted to make this a bigger scandal. Once the authorities got involved, even if I was cleared in the end, my reputation would still be damaged. I'd no longer qualify to become Sterling Manor's young mistress. The elders hesitated for a moment but ultimately agreed to the search. Sophia had the servants search my parcel first, her eyes gleaming with smug delight, as if victory were already hers. The servant opened my parcel, and, sure enough, quickly found the jeweled hairpin. They held it up for everyone to see. Sophia immediately rushed over, pointing at me and sobbing, "Clara, I treated you well. How could you steal my hairpin? Oh, Clara, if you truly wanted it, you only had to ask." This one's too precious to give away. I could have given you some other rare treasures. Rachel seized the opportunity to speak. She bowed to the Sterling elders and said, "It's all my fault for failing to teach Clara better, and letting her commit such a theft. I beg you all to punish her severely, and remove her from the candidate list." To give Sterling Manor an explanation. The people around us began whispering. Their looks at me turned strange. Victoria stood off to the side, a barely perceptible smile curling her lips. I didn't panic. I slowly stepped forward and said calmly, "Honored elders, I didn't steal the hairpin. Why not inspect my parcel before passing judgment?" I walked over to my parcel and said softly, "You all saw me writing earlier, so you know I'm right-handed. But my sister clearly favors her left hand when playing the zither. The knot on my parcel faces left. A right-handed person couldn't have tied it that way. If you don't believe me, you can try it yourselves." The moment I spoke, the whispers around us died down. The elders all looked at the package on the table, then turned to examine Sophia. Sophia went pale. She waved frantically. "It wasn't me. I never went through your package, and I know nothing about any hairpin." Her defense was utterly unconvincing. Her eyes darted around. Her earlier confidence was long gone. Rachel panicked, too. She hurried to smooth things over. "Clara, don't you dare make baseless accusations. Sophia is gentle by nature. Why would she frame you like this?" Just then, Martha stepped forward and bowed to Madam Sterling. "Madam, I was working outside the side hall just now. I saw it with my own eyes." Miss Vance approached Miss Vance's package, while Miss Vance went to get water, and went through it. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now that I think about it, Miss Vance must have slipped the hairpin inside then. Martha was the longtime steward of Sterling Manor, known for being calm and reliable. Everyone in the Sterling family trusted what she said. Madam Sterling flew into a rage. Her face darkened as she glared at Sophia. "Tell me the truth. Did you deliberately put the hairpin in Miss Vance's package to frame her?" Sophia trembled violently. She dropped to her knees and stammered, unable to speak. Tears streamed down her face, but she no longer dared defend herself. Rachel still tried to plead for her, but Madam Sterling cut her off sharply. "You still have the nerve to plead for her? You let your daughter do something so vile. Your favoritism couldn't be more obvious." Luckily, Miss Vance was clever. Otherwise, wouldn't you and your daughter have framed her and ruined her reputation? Madam Sterling ordered a full investigation. Soon, they found the other servants sweeping the grounds and learned the whole story. They confirmed Sophia had acted on Rachel's orders and deliberately framed me. After what happened, Sophia's reputation was utterly ruined. No one respected her anymore. As for me, I not only proved my innocence completely, but earned praise for my composure and intelligence, winning the respect of everyone at Sterling Manor. Rachel and Sophia's scheme had failed yet again, but I knew this was only the beginning. They would never stop here. The Sterling family's final decision was in. After Madam Sterling and Ethan discussed it, they decided I'd marry into Sterling Manor as an equal wife, alongside military heiress Evelyn Montgomery, both wed to Ethan. I know, it's a marriage alliance to secure Sterling power. Evelyn's family can protect Sterling Industries. I earned their approval through calligraphy and poise. Sophia, by contrast, after one mistake after another, especially after framing me, became the talk of the town. Could only rely on Victoria to arrange her entry into Sterling Manor, as Lucas Sterling's concubine. When word reached the Vance family, Rachel's face turned dark. She couldn't hide her resentment. I caught her meeting Victoria in private. The two plotted in a garden corner. Their voices were low, but I still overheard a few words. They planned to wait until I married into Sterling Manor, then find a chance to suppress me, and gradually replace me with Sophia. They also planned to move the Vance family's money faster, and keep funding the second branch's expansion. I stood behind a rockery and laughed coldly to myself. This mother and daughter still won't give up. Do they really think I'm still the easy target I was in my past life? I didn't expose them but quietly slipped away. Whether I'm an equal wife or the primary wife, either way, they're stepping stones to revenge and my first step in protecting my family's main line. Next, I need to hold my ground, wait to marry into Sterling Manor, and close the net, step by step. Evelyn Montgomery is the daughter of a military family. She's bold and straightforward, and hates beating around the bush. The Sterling family arranged for us to be equal wives, so some friction was inevitable. Rather than wait until after the wedding and be forced to feel each other out, I went to her first and spoke frankly. I brought her a modest gift, a piece of running script I wrote myself. The strokes were bold and clean, chosen to match Evelyn's personality. When I met her, she was, as expected, somewhat distant. She told me bluntly she thought I was after power too, fighting for the position of Sterling's young mistress. I didn't argue. I simply handed her my calligraphy, and smiled. "Miss Montgomery, I know you don't like formalities, and I have no interest in fighting you. We're both doing this for our families. Instead of wearing each other down, we should look out for each other from now on. This piece is for you. Consider it a token of my sincerity." Evelyn took the calligraphy and studied it for a moment. The distance in her eyes faded a little. Her tone softened considerably, too. "I had no idea you were such a master of calligraphy. And you came to me yourself to speak so openly. You're far better than those hypocritical women who do nothing but put on airs. She accepted the calligraphy at once. She didn't say it outright, but I could tell she'd changed her opinion of me. This visit had been well worth it. Winning Evelyn Montgomery's approval meant that, from now on at Sterling Manor, I'd have a powerful ally and one less enemy. That day, Evelyn and I hit it off. So I took the initiative and suggested that after we married into Sterling Manor, we wouldn't fight each other. We'd face the household intrigue and protect our families and interests. Evelyn gladly agreed at once. She said she had no interest in household intrigue. What mattered most was a solid family alliance. My candor and talent made her willing to ally with me. We reached an agreement. From then on, at Sterling Manor, we'd share information and look out for each other. Together, we'd humble the second branch. Rachel learned of it before long. She grew uneasy. She must have feared that once Evelyn and I joined forces, she and her daughter could no longer make a move. I noticed her constantly seeking Sophia out. I didn't need to think twice. They were plotting again. Sure enough, a few days later, I heard Rachel had instructed Sophia to sabotage me before I married into Sterling Manor. The goal was to ruin my reputation and make the Sterling family cancel the engagement. I wasn't rattled. I'd suffered this before, but this time, I was ready. If they wanted to play games, I'd play along. But this time, they'd be the only ones to lose. Rachel and Sophia Vance moved fast. Within days, rumors spread across the capital claiming I had no morals, that I'd slept with a servant in secret, and was of poor character. I was unfit to marry into Sterling Manor. The rumors grew more vicious. Even my relatives came to ask my dad. The whole household was thrown into panic. Though my dad never openly blamed me, the worry showed on his face. I knew if I didn't crush the rumors soon, my engagement could be called off, and my family's and my reputations destroyed. But I didn't panic. Instead, I made up my mind to clear my name once and for all at our banquet. On the day of the banquet, I invited several renowned calligraphers from across the city. Once everyone was seated, I laid out paper and ground ink in public and wrote the ode to learning in regular script. My brushwork was steady, my composition impeccable. The masters praised it one after another. While everyone was discussing it, I asked the masters to testify for me. Calligraphy reveals one's character. I had practiced with grandma since childhood, so I was raised with an upright character, nothing like the vile woman in those rumors. The masters already revered grandma's calligraphy, and they saw my exceptional talent and steady bearing. They immediately spoke up in my defense, denouncing the rumors as lies. My friends and the business leaders present believed them too. The rumors collapsed on their own. After that, my reputation wasn't harmed at all. It actually grew stronger through my calligraphy, and Rachel's scheme fell through once again. After quelling the rumors, with my wedding drawing near, I used the spare time to sort grandma's calligraphy works and copybooks. Seeing those familiar strokes, I remembered how grandma taught me and urged me to protect the Vance family. The memories came flooding back. My heart was warmed and wounded. That bond strengthened my resolve to protect the Vance main line and see my revenge through. I had people quietly audit the Vance family's business accounts. The investigation revealed Rachel had already begun moving assets, quietly funneling Vance money to the second branch to fund their business, in exchange for their support of Sophia. Seeing the holes in the books, I trembled with rage. She hadn't just ruined me, she meant to bleed the Vance family dry. I would never let her win. Just then, Ethan sent over lavish betrothal gifts and invited me to a restaurant to discuss managing the family businesses after our marriage. I knew it was Ethan's recognition of me, and a chance to gain access to the Sterling family businesses and build my strength. I composed myself, and went to the restaurant on time. As I planned, once I married into the Sterling family, I'd help Ethan put the businesses in order, then slowly reclaim control of the Vance family. I went to the restaurant on time. After meeting Ethan, he skipped the small talk.
He got straight to the Sterling family businesses. He said the Sterlings owned countless shops, but lax management in recent years had left them riddled with loopholes. He hoped I'd be a supportive wife after we married and help him set things right.
Drawing on my experience growing up in a merchant family, and what grandma taught me about managing a household, I gradually shared my thoughts. First, standardize every shop's books. Then investigate any embezzlement. Next, eliminate the inefficient shops and expand into emerging enterprises. At the same time, strengthen ties with reliable merchants to secure the Sterling family's place in business. My points were clear and well organized, and my insights were distinctly my own. Ethan listened with great attention. He nodded again and again, his approval growing clearer in his eyes. Toward the end of our conversation, he brought up the second branch's recent moves. He admitted the Sterling family was split into factions. Victoria and Lucas had long coveted the family fortune and were making moves behind the scenes. After I married into the family, he hoped I'd join forces with him and Evelyn to strengthen the first branch and suppress the second branch. That was exactly what I wanted. I gladly agreed at once. I knew Ethan was more than my husband, he was also my key to gaining a foothold at Sterling Manor. Only by joining forces with him could I settle my scores faster with Rachel and the second branch, and protect everything that belonged to me and my family. We reached an understanding. This marriage alliance now meant we would fight side by side. On my wedding day, Evelyn and I married into Sterling Manor. The wedding was a grand affair. City elites, business associates, and military figures all came to offer their congratulations. The whole affair was remarkably lively. I wore elegant wedding attire, with understated yet dignified makeup. I kept a calm expression all the way. Only I knew that from the moment I crossed Sterling Manor's gates, my path to revenge had finally begun in earnest. Rachel and Sophia came as well, wearing false smiles, while resentment and schemes hid in their eyes. They quietly watched the situation from a corner, likely plotting their next move. As Lucas's concubine, Sophia entered Sterling Manor with her. She was assigned to the remote West Wing. I knew she wouldn't stay quiet. As expected, just days after the wedding, Martha quietly told me Sophia had been secretly contacting Victoria repeatedly. The two often met in private, plotting their comeback. I paid it no mind. I could handle whatever they threw at me. I would weather whatever came. I wasn't in a hurry. I'd take my time. One day, I'd make them pay for everything they'd done, and pay the price they deserved. On my first day as a bride at Sterling Manor, I followed tradition and went with Evelyn to pay our respects to Madame Sterling. Evelyn was bold and spirited, so she brought gifts from her military family. I, meanwhile, prepared a piece of seal script by hand, with words of blessing and good fortune. Its style was dignified and steeped in history, perfectly suited to an elder's tastes, while showcasing my skill in calligraphy. Madame Sterling accepted the calligraphy and examined it closely for quite some time. A pleased smile spread across her face. She praised me again and again for my thoughtfulness. She said my seal script had some of my grandma's style. She immediately brought out a treasured copybook she'd kept for years and urged me to practice, to carry on the art of calligraphy. Earning Madame Sterling's approval finally let me breathe easier. It meant I had another layer of protection at Sterling Manor. Word of it soon reached Rachel. She was consumed by jealousy. Perhaps seeing me settle in so well at Sterling Manor made it impossible for her to hold back any longer. Within a few days, I noticed the maids around me acting strangely. They were always furtive. The tea and meals they brought also had a strange taste. I knew exactly what was happening. Rachel must have bribed one of them to tamper with my food and make me sick, so I'd be unable to manage family affairs, giving Sophia an opening. When I noticed the maid's odd behavior, I didn't expose her. I pretended not to know and drank the drugged tea before her. Rachel had to think her plan had worked for me to catch her in the act and stop her from manipulating me again. Not long after drinking the tea, I pretended to grow ill in Madame Sterling's courtyard. My face went pale, my whole body grew weak, and I could barely stand. Madame Sterling panicked at once. She sent for a doctor and ordered a full investigation. After taking my pulse, the doctor said I'd been given a mild sedative. It wasn't fatal, but it left the body weak and the mind sluggish. Martha seized the chance to tell Madame Sterling she'd noticed the maid acting strangely lately, often meeting people in secret. Madame Sterling was furious and ordered a harsh interrogation. The maid couldn't take it and confessed soon after. Rachel had paid her to tamper with my food and drink. Once the truth came out, Madame Sterling was furious. She condemned Rachel's audacity. How dare she scheme inside Sterling Manor? She barred Rachel from entering Sterling Manor freely and severely punished the maid. Then she threw her out of Sterling Manor. After that, everyone at Sterling Manor saw Rachel's true colors. No one dared side with her again. I'd thwarted another crisis and secured my place at Sterling Manor. After foiling Rachel's schemes, I devoted myself to helping Ethan manage the Sterling family's businesses. I was meticulous by nature. Once I took over, I first organized the books for every Sterling shop. I checked them one by one. I soon uncovered many discrepancies. Most were caused by the second branch misappropriating funds for personal gain. I compiled every issue I found and handed it to Ethan. He was absolutely furious. He immediately ordered a full audit, recovered the misappropriated funds, and punished the servants involved. He also replaced several managers planted in the shops by the second branch. Evelyn was busy as well. She used her family's military connections to pave the way for new Sterling ventures. She opened many doors for us and secured several major industrial projects. The three of us, Ethan, Evelyn, and I, worked together. Each played our part, and Sterling business grew more prosperous by the day. Just then, Sophia Vance started stirring trouble again. She secretly sowed discord at Sterling Manor, spreading rumors that I mistreated the servants and monopolized all authority. She deliberately tarnished my reputation at the manor. Thankfully, Evelyn was blunt by nature. When she heard, she confronted the servants spreading the rumors and interrogated them harshly. She exposed Sophia's scheme and reported her actions to Madame Sterling. Madame Sterling ordered Sophia confined to the West Wing. She was forbidden to leave at will. That ought to teach her a lesson. Word came that Sophia was confined to the house. I didn't let my guard down for a second. I know that mother and daughter too well. The harder they're hit, the more desperately they'll strike back. They'd never let this go. My top priority now was to reclaim control of the Vance family business. Rachel had already moved a great deal of money. If I let her continue, she'd bleed the Vance family dry. I couldn't let the family legacy grandma left behind be destroyed by her. I made time to return to the Vance house. The moment we met, I confronted Rachel about taking back control. She flew into a rage, just as expected. She pounded the table and accused me. She claimed she was a Vance elder, so managing the business was her right. Then she turned the accusation on me, saying that after I married into Sterling Manor, I cared only about myself, not the Vance family's fate. I looked at her hypocritical face, and could only sneer inwardly. I didn't waste words on her. I pulled out the financial statement I'd prepared. I'd had it compiled in secret. It clearly recorded the times she transferred Vance family assets to the second branch of the Sterling family. Mrs. Victoria's duty is to manage the business, not line her pockets or fund outsiders. Now explain these accounts to me. What exactly happened? Rachel's face turned deathly pale. Her eyes darted away. All her earlier swagger was gone. She stammered, unable to form a complete sentence. The stewards and longtime staff saw it all. They didn't dare say much, but they were finally seeing her true colors. She still refused to surrender full control, but she was clearly on the defensive. She no longer dared to move assets with impunity as before. That counted as a first victory. My failed bid to reclaim control of my family. Evelyn soon found out. She's bold and decisive. She immediately insisted I return and said she'd back me. I didn't want to trouble her, but she said, since we're allies, we should have each other's backs. Besides, Rachel's gotten arrogant. If we don't put her in her place, she'll come after you again. I returned with Evelyn once more. Evelyn wore a sharp, polished outfit, with the bearing of a military dynasty. The moment she entered, she made her position clear. She bluntly called out Rachel for seizing family assets and moving them around. If Rachel kept this up, she'd have her family step in and investigate where our assets had gone. Rachel had always feared military power. Seeing Evelyn confront her personally, she lost all her nerve. She had no choice but to relent. Then she surrendered control of part of the family business. She handed me key shops and their ledgers. Holding those ledgers, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. I took Evelyn's hand and thanked her again and again. She laughed and waved it off, saying it was no big deal. After that, our bond grew stronger than ever. We became true allies who'd have each other's backs. But Rachel clearly wouldn't surrender. I learned she'd secretly reached out to Victoria and was quietly moving the rest of my family's assets. She even contacted Julian to have him come after me and destroy my foothold at Sterling Manor. I knew one thing. Julian was vicious by nature and would never let this go. I had to prepare in advance. Julian Reed quickly made his move. During that time, whenever I left Sterling Manor to oversee my businesses, I felt followed. Their footsteps were furtive. It had to be someone Julian sent. He was tailing me to abduct me. First, to force me to surrender control of my family's businesses, and second, to ruin my reputation, so I'd lose all standing at Sterling Manor. I didn't panic. Instead, I deliberately slowed my pace. After a few encounters, I figured out who the follower was. Then I secretly sent word to Evelyn, asking her to send trusted men to back me up. Evelyn was efficient. She arranged the team at once. They lay in wait along my way home. That evening, I just stepped out of the shop when masked men blocked my path. They were Julian's men. Without a word, they tried to kidnap me. My hidden allies charged out at once. The two sides quickly clashed. Before long, Julian's men were subdued, and even Julian, directing them from hiding, was caught red-handed. I handed Julian straight to the authorities. I thought this would finally eliminate the threat, but the second branch moved with astonishing speed. They worked behind the scenes all night, spending a fortune to pull strings, and somehow Julian escaped. As I stared at the empty prison wagon, I understood more clearly than ever. The second branch's influence ran deep. Scattered counterattacks would never be enough. I had to gather complete evidence of their collusion with Rachel to bring them all down in one blow. Sterling Manor was hosting a family banquet, inviting the city's elite and business partners. It was a chance for the Sterling family to strengthen their connections and an opening for Rachel and the second branch to strike. Victoria Sterling made a special appeal so Rachel, who was barred from the manor, could attend the banquet. Clearly, the two had planned this for a long time. They meant to use everyone's eyes on me to bring me down for good. I sensed something was wrong beforehand and guessed they'd seize the chance to attack. So I made preparations of my own. I organized every financial statement from the shops I'd managed for the Sterling family. I even invited the Sterling family's most reliable accountant to attend the banquet with me, just in case. Halfway through the banquet, while everyone was enjoying their conversation, Victoria Sterling rose first and launched her attack. Pointing at me, she accused me of, while managing the Sterling businesses, lining my own pockets and pocketing the shop's profits. She even produced several forged financial statements to deceive everyone. Rachel fanned the flames from the sidelines, bowing to the Sterling elders, and demanding that I be severely punished. She deliberately claimed that I even dared tamper with the Vance family's businesses, so why wouldn't I steal the Sterling family's money? The people around us immediately began whispering. Their looks at me grew noticeably more suspicious. I rose calmly, without the slightest panic. First, I had the authentic financial statements brought out to expose the flaws in the forged ones. Then I asked the first branch's accountant to verify them publicly, proving that every account I'd handled was clear and accurate and that I'd never embezzled embezzled a thing. Then I changed tack. I produced some evidence I'd uncovered earlier showing that the second branch had repeatedly misused Sterling family funds and secretly run a smuggling operation. Then I turned to Victoria Sterling and asked, why was she so concerned with the Sterling shop's books? She could even produce forged financial statements. My words left Victoria Sterling and the second branch speechless, putting them on the defensive. The crowd's suspicions gradually turned toward them. After the clash at the family banquet, Ethan finally saw the second branch's ambitions clearly. He resolved to investigate their businesses in secret, to uncover their smuggling and embezzlement. I took advantage of the opportunity to leverage my family's holdings I just reclaimed, and put trustworthy people in place to gather proof of Rachel's asset transfers and her funding of the second branch, filling in every gap, piece by piece. Every morning, I made time to grind ink and practice calligraphy. On one hand, it was to win over Madame Sterling, who loved calligraphy, and secure my place at Sterling Manor. I often took my finished calligraphy to Madame Sterling's courtyard. She was delighted every time she saw it, and her approval of me kept growing. On the other hand, calligraphy helped me calm my mind so hatred wouldn't cloud my judgment. It also let me use my calligraphy to build ties with the city's elite and scholars. Most of those scholars admired my grandmother's mastery of calligraphy. When they saw my writing echoed grandma's style and that I saw through people, they were eager to befriend me, and gradually became part of my network. Among them, some knew of the second branch's illegal dealings and would quietly pass me information. Besides that, Martha became another unseen ally. She'd spent decades at Sterling Manor, knew everyone and everything and had long despised the second branch's conduct. She often secretly kept me apprised of their moves. She told me when and where Victoria and Rachel met in private, helping me avoid countless traps. With all that help, I gathered evidence faster and faster, and my confidence in taking revenge grew stronger. As the investigation deepened, I found the second branch's smuggling was worse than I imagined. They didn't just smuggle goods. They colluded with enemies to traffic weapons. Evelyn's family found this lead. Hearing this, Ethan and I were shocked. Arms trafficking is serious. If exposed, the Sterlings would be dragged down, ruined completely, risking national security and harming innocents. I met Ethan and Evelyn at once, planning our strategy overnight. Ethan urged reporting it to authorities, but Evelyn noted we lacked proof. Premature reporting would cause them to destroy evidence and tip them off. After weighing options, we decided to draw the snake out. I leaked rumors that I knew of their arms smuggling and was gathering evidence, tempting Rachel and Sophia to strike at me first. The more panicked they grew, the more mistakes they'd make. Then we could secure complete proof of their crimes and bring them down for good. Evelyn tracked their transport routes for concrete evidence, while Ethan contacted reliable officials to prepare for their arrest. I played the prey, keeping Rachel and Sophia off guard until they fell into our trap. A battle over the Sterling's fate and my revenge was now underway. According to plan, I deliberately placed in a desk drawer a forged ledger of arms smuggling and left the drawer unlocked so Sophia Vance would find it. I already knew that Victoria, under the pretense of visiting Lucas, had secretly freed Sophia. She was bound to start asking around about me. Sure enough, before long, Sophia used delivering medicine to Lucas as an excuse to slip into my study. She furtively searched for something and spotted the ledger at once. As she picked it up and looked through it, her face went deathly pale. Her hands began to tremble. She was clearly terrified, afraid I'd expose the second branch's crimes. She didn't even have time to put it back. She hurried out and immediately told Rachel and Victoria. I hid outside the door and saw everything perfectly clearly. I could only sneer inwardly. They'd fallen for it, just as I'd expected. After Rachel and Victoria heard the news, they panicked, just as expected. They met that very night to plan their response. From Martha, I learned they feared I'd turn the evidence over to the authorities, so they decided to strike first by accusing me of conspiring with foreign enemies and leaking the Sterling's business secrets. They'd pin every charge on me and have me put to death. That would settle everything and save themselves and the second branch. But after hearing all this, I didn't panic. Instead, I breathed a sigh of relief. The more desperately they rushed to act, the more likely they were to reveal a flaw. That would make our plan much easier to carry out. Using her birthday as an excuse, Victoria held another family banquet at Sterling Manor. With the birthday celebration as its pretext, the guest list included military and business leaders. It was even grander than the last one. Rachel and Victoria chose that moment to strike, hoping to use everyone's influence to make the charges against me stick for good and leave me no chance to recover. They had arranged their so-called witnesses in advance and forged letters claiming I colluded with foreign powers. They had clearly planned it for a long time. Halfway through the family banquet, Victoria was the first to rise. In a stern voice, she accused me of aiding foreign powers and leaking the Sterling family's business secrets. She even deliberately revealed details of the second branch's business, claiming I'd done it for personal gain at the expense of my family and my country. The moment she finished speaking, the entire room erupted in shock. The military officers immediately grew solemn and all turned to look at me. Rachel followed close behind, pulling out the forged letters and tearfully presenting her case to everyone. She claimed she'd noticed my suspicious behavior long ago, and that I'd ignored her repeated warnings. She begged Ethan and Madam Sterling to punish me severely, and hand me over to the military to uphold the family's honor. Sophia also came forward as a witness. She embellished her story, claiming she'd seen me meeting with strange foreigners. Every word she spoke was utterly certain, as if I'd truly committed some monstrous crime. Faced with the three of them joining forces against me and the crowd's questioning stares, I remained completely composed and made no attempt to defend myself. I knew the more flustered I became, the easier it would be to fall into their trap. I had to stay calm to tear apart their lies one by one and clear my name. Once Sophia finished speaking, I slowly rose to my feet. My calm gaze swept over Victoria, Rachel, and Sophia. Then I began my rebuttal. I didn't defend my innocence first. Instead, I produced the evidence I'd prepared. I'd had someone investigate. It included the accounts and letters proving they'd bribed the witnesses. They clearly recorded the sums paid to the witnesses, and their rehearsed testimony. I passed the evidence around. Then I said coldly, "This so-called witness was bought off by you at a high price. His testimony can't be trusted. As for this forged letter, no matter how closely the handwriting was copied, the flaws can still be found. The estate accountant and calligraphy experts can both testify it's not my handwriting." Next, I produced what I'd gathered earlier. Evidence of my mother's transfer of Van's assets,
Rachel's transfer of
evidence
Van's
of Rachel
family
transferring Van's
and
evidence
assets.
of the second branch smuggling goods. I displayed it all for everyone to see. Then I turned to Victoria. I challenged Mrs. Victoria. "You keep insisting that I leaked the second branch's business secrets, but those businesses were illegal smuggling operations. So how could you know so much? Clearly, you and Rachel conspired to help the second branch commit these crimes. Now that you fear I'll expose you, you deliberately framed me." My words struck right at the heart of it. Victoria was instantly speechless, her face as pale as paper. She couldn't offer another word in her defense. Rachel and Sophia panicked as well. Their eyes darted about, completely at a loss. The nobles and military officials filled the room with whispers. The looks they gave the second branch and Rachel shifted from doubt to disdain. The second branch was utterly on the defensive, with no chance of turning things around. Victoria and Rachel had no answer but forced themselves to argue. They claimed I was framing them, and tried to drag Evelyn and Ethan in, insisting we'd conspired together. But their excuses fell flat. Everyone had already seen the truth. No one was willing to believe them. Just then, Evelyn rose, a thick stack of evidence in hand, and walked before the crowd. In a firm voice, she said, "I also have proof the second branch sold weapons and colluded with foreign enemies. It includes their transport routes, transaction records, and letters linking them to those enemies. It's airtight." There was no room left for excuses. As she spoke, she passed the evidence to the military and Madam Sterling. After reading it, the officers said they'd investigate at once. Madam Sterling flew into a rage. She slammed her cane against the floor, pointing at Victoria and the second branch. She was shaking with fury. "How dare you? You colluded with foreign enemies, and sold weapons. You ignored the Sterling family's safety, and betrayed the nation's interests. The Sterling family has no scum like you." She immediately ordered everyone in the second branch confined. No one was allowed in or out. They would await the authorities' ruling. Seeing the tide had turned against her, Sophia knew she was finished. While everyone was in chaos, she slipped out of the banquet hall, trying to escape Sterling Manor. But the Sterling servants had been lying in wait and caught her. Rachel was restrained by the servants too. Her former arrogance was gone. She collapsed to the floor, despair filling her eyes. In this battle, we finally won. The second branch had fallen. Word that Rachel had been detained reached the Vance family. My father, Edward, smashed his teacup on the spot. He rushed to Sterling Manor that very night. He'd always been too easily swayed. Until then, Rachel's gentle facade had kept him blind, so he had no idea she'd moved the family's assets or constantly undermined me. Now that he knew every detail, his eyes burned with fury and undisguised heartbreak. When he saw Rachel, she was still making one last stand. On her knees, wailing and carrying on, she swore everything she'd done was for the family, to secure Sophia's future. She even turned it around, claiming I had framed her and tried to drive a wedge between her and Dad. Watching her pathetic performance, I felt nothing. I simply pulled out the complete evidence I'd prepared. It showed how she'd diverted family assets over the years and funded the second branch. There was also proof she'd ordered me harmed, with witnesses and physical evidence of tampering with my food. There were records of her sidelining longtime Vance employees and installing her own loyalists. I laid the evidence before Dad, piece by piece, then calmly told him how she'd mistreated me all these years and bled the family dry. The more Dad read, the darker his face grew. His hands even started to shake. When he'd finished, he pointed at Rachel, heartbroken, unable to say a word. At last, he gave up on Rachel completely. Right there, he said he would divorce her. He stripped her of all rights in the family and barred her from ever setting foot in the Vance home again. Rachel collapsed to the floor, her old arrogance finally gone, leaving only desperate wails. But she'd brought it on herself. After dealing with Rachel, I had Sophia brought over from the West Wing. By then, her old arrogance was gone. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes darted nervously. There wasn't a trace of her fake gentleness left. I skipped the pleasantries. I told her bluntly, Rachel had been divorced by my dad. The second branch had collapsed completely. Victoria had been thrown out of Sterling Manor, and Lucas had been locked up. Sophia was completely alone now, with no one left to protect her. I urged her to confess voluntarily. She was to hand over every piece of evidence of the second branch's collusion with Rachel, including Julian's smuggling operation, and everything she had done to abuse me in my past life. If she came clean, I would plead for leniency, and ask the authorities to go easy on her, so she could avoid the harshest punishment. But Sophia remained stubbornly defiant. She cursed me viciously, calling me cold-blooded and cruel. She said I deliberately ruined everything for her and her mother, and swore she'd never help me, even in death. I'd expected exactly this from her, so I didn't get angry. I simply produced a piece of evidence. Martha had uncovered it. The second branch's remaining forces, afraid Sophia would reveal more secrets and put themselves at risk, had secretly arranged for people to silence her when the chance arose. I placed the evidence in front of her. With a cold laugh, I said, "Do you really think guarding your secrets will keep you alive? The second branch can barely save itself. Who's going to protect you? Confess, and you might still have a chance." As she stared at the evidence, Sophia's cursing gradually stopped. Her face suddenly went deathly pale. The arrogance in her eyes turned to fear. Her whole body began to tremble, and all her earlier defiance was gone. Sophia fell silent for a long while. At last, she faced reality. Everyone had already abandoned her. Rachel couldn't even protect herself. The second branch had fallen. No one could shield her now. If she wanted to live, confession was her only way. She collapsed into a chair. Tears streamed down her face. Crying, she told me about everything she'd done over the years. Regret filled her voice, but so did resentment. She willingly pulled out the complete ledger she'd been hiding on her. It clearly recorded the second branch's smuggling, tax evasion, and every detail of bribing officials. It also held proof of Rachel's transfer of the Shu family fortune, bit by bit, to the second branch. Every transaction was recorded in full. On top of that, she gave up Julian's hiding place, a hidden estate the second branch had left behind years ago. Julian had hidden there ever since escaping. I forced down the turmoil inside me and wrote down every word of her confession. Along with the ledger and evidence she surrendered, I compiled a complete body of evidence and immediately sent it to Ethan and Evelyn. I discussed the next steps with them. This time, everyone who had harmed me would pay the price they deserved. Once Ethan had all the evidence, he joined forces with Evelyn's family and mobilized the military for a sweeping crackdown. First, they seized every business owned by the second branch. That included their shops and warehouses. Even their secret smuggling dens were searched top to bottom. They found piles of contraband and dirty money, all of which was turned over to the authorities. Lucas, the family's illegitimate son, had taken part in smuggling, embezzled funds, and colluded with the enemy. With such a long list of crimes, he was locked up on the spot to await his final sentence. For the rest of his life, he would pay for everything he'd done. With all her allies gone, Victoria was left powerless. Ethan ordered her banished from Sterling Manor. She'd spent her life chasing wealth and scheming against others. Now, she had no one to rely on and could only beg in the streets. She spent her final years in misery, with none of her former glory. But Julian's fate gave me the greatest satisfaction. The military followed Sophia's tip to the hidden estate and captured him without a hitch. After several interrogations, he confessed to smuggling, trafficking weapons, and abusing several of his wives and mistresses. He admitted everything. The evidence was irrefutable, and he was sentenced to death. When I heard Julian had been executed, I was practicing calligraphy in my study. My brush suddenly froze. A drop of ink fell onto the rice paper, spreading into a small stain. All the humiliation and pain of my past life finally came to an end at that moment. At last, I could do right by the woman I'd been, left dead in a mass grave. My blood debt was finally repaid. The burden I'd carried for so many years finally felt a little lighter. But I also knew this wasn't the end. I still had to protect the Vance and Sterling families and fulfill Grandma's final wish. As for the Vance family, my dad, Edward Vance, kept his word. He officially cast Rachel out. Rachel completely broke down. She no longer cared how she looked. She cried and made a scene, but nothing could change the truth. She was thrown out of the Vance home. Then, for siphoning off Vance assets and funding illegal ventures, the authorities held her accountable. All property in her name was seized. She couldn't take even one decent dress. Once the Vance family's glamorous second wife, she became a despised outcast everyone loathed. No one would take her in. In the end, she could only beg in the streets. She barely survived hunger and cold. Her life ended in utter misery. Seeing her like that, I felt not a shred of pity. She got exactly what she deserved. If she hadn't been greedy, or done so many wicked things, she wouldn't have ended up like this. With Rachel dealt with, I finally formally reclaimed all authority that belonged to my branch. Once I took over, I immediately overhauled the Vance family shops. I fired all the cronies Rachel had planted, and brought back every veteran she'd forced out. These veterans had worked alongside my grandparents all their lives. They were loyal and dependable, and knew the Vance's business inside out. I standardized the Vance family's books, cleared out the bad debts, opened new business channels, and adapted our strategy to the industrial boom. Little by little, I restored the Vance's strength, and watched the family get back on track. I could almost see Grandma's relieved smile. It strengthened my resolve to protect the Vance bloodline, and carry on Grandma's calligraphy legacy. For her confession and cooperation, Sophia voluntarily handed over key evidence, helping us wipe out the second branch's remnants. The authorities spared her a harsher sentence and only banished her from Sterling Manor and the Vance family never to return. The day she left, she neither cried nor made a scene. She wore plain clothes and quietly walked out Sterling Manor's gates. After that, she disappeared. Rumor had it she married an ordinary farmer and settled in the countryside, farming and weaving. She lived a quiet, humble country life, with no way back into high society. Her old arrogance and scheming were gone. As for how she ended up, I gave it little thought. Everyone must answer for what they've done. This was the fate she deserved. After weathering the storm, Sterling Manor purged every internal faction. The first branch took firm control of every enterprise, and Ethan Sterling's position grew ever stronger. The Sterling family's reputation slowly recovered. Through my composure and intelligence, my exceptional business acumen, and my gift for calligraphy, I earned everyone's respect at Sterling Manor. Even the longtime servants truly respected me. One day, Madame Sterling summoned me to her quarters. She took my hand and said, "Clara, you're clever and capable, and steady by nature. You can manage the family enterprises, and pass on the art of calligraphy. You're a rare and exceptional young woman. From now on, Sterling Manor is yours to manage." The moment I took over household management, I knew in my heart I'd finally secured my place at Sterling Manor. At last, I had enough power to protect everything I held dear. After taking over household management at Sterling Manor, I didn't rush things. Instead, I put the household in order step by step. First, I reviewed the staff roster and carefully investigated each person's background. I dismissed every servant bought off by the second branch and bent on betrayal. I kept only loyal, capable people and reset everyone's duties and the rules. Gone were the old laziness and infighting. I also overhauled Sterling Manor's expense ledgers, eliminating wasteful spending, and allocating supplies wisely. Sterling Manor took on an entirely new spirit. Everyone was finally united. There was no more factional infighting. Madame Sterling saw it all, and grew more pleased with me by the day. She often praised my abilities in front of everyone. Meanwhile, I still had to oversee both family businesses. I was on my feet from dawn to dusk, yet I felt more grounded than ever. Ethan, Evelyn, and I divided the work. Ethan set the overall direction. Evelyn drew on her family's military connections to open doors for us and expand our industrial network. I handled the internal accounts and standardized our operations. Together, the three of us worked as one. We expanded legitimate businesses step by step, entering textiles, grain, oil, and other fields. In those days, women in business already faced an uphill battle. Many people whispered behind my back, saying that a woman like me could never carry both families' businesses. But I refused to let the gossip sway me. My proven ability shattered their prejudice. With sharp instincts and meticulous discipline, I grew both family businesses bigger and bigger. Our trade spread across the entire city. I became known as a prominent businesswoman. I earned recognition and respect from my peers. No matter how busy I was, I never stopped practicing. I also kept Grandma's wish in mind, to pass down her calligraphy skills. After some time spent preparing, I decided to hold a calligraphy exhibition. I'd display works I'd copied and created over the years, along with treasured copybooks and manuscripts Grandma left behind. It would honor Grandma and carry on her art. Once word of the exhibition spread, the city's calligraphy masters and business elite, along with military officials, all came to attend. The event was truly bustling. I placed Grandma's manuscripts in the most prominent spot. Each piece was labeled with its background. I told everyone about Grandma's mastery and legacy. After many masters had viewed them, they couldn't stop praising Grandma's calligraphy. They also recognized my desire to preserve her art. My work spans regular, running, and seal script. It had Grandma's steady compositions, as well as my own style. Bold, powerful strokes, free and precise, earned praise from the masters. Many even asked for a calligraphy exchange. I used the opportunity to build many connections and lay the groundwork for both families' businesses. Madame Sterling came especially to see the exhibition. She gazed at Grandma's work and mine, her face glowing with pride. She took my hand. "Clara, you haven't let me down, nor have you let your grandmother down. You're a blessing to both the Vance and Sterling families." Evelyn came too. Though she knows nothing about calligraphy, she stayed by me the whole time, happy for me, and helped receive the guests. Our bond grew deeper with each passing day. On the day of the exhibition, the hall was filled with visitors, buzzing with praise. Standing before Grandma's work, I looked back on the past, filled with emotion. In my past life, I was naive and easily manipulated, meeting a tragic end. My family's legacy fell, and Grandma's art was almost lost. After my rebirth, I calculated every move, fought back patiently, and exacted my revenge. I reclaimed our business, preserved Grandma's legacy, and settled old scores. Both our families' businesses are thriving. I am no longer helpless, but strong enough to protect those I love. Years of hardship and pain have turned into peace, and the hatred I harbored has given way to hope and duty. As I was lost in thought, Ethan walked up to me. He didn't disturb me, but stood by me silently. When I came to my senses, I heard him say softly,
"Clara, I know you've suffered so much. I admire your talent and strength, and ache for what you endured. Ever since I saw you write, so calm and composed, I fell for you. I want to build a life with you. And Evelyn, protecting our work and families."
His words were sincere and firm, his eyes full of warmth and respect. I looked at him, thinking of Evelyn, who stood by me. Warmth filled my heart, and I nodded gently in response. After all this time, I am no longer alone. I now have partners to walk with me and support each other. On an autumn afternoon, the sky was clear and crisp, a breeze swept by, and it felt wonderful. Evelyn, Ethan, and I went out to escape the manor's endless affairs. No schemes, no conflicts, it was rare to have such free time. Evelyn was dressed as sharply as ever. She teased me with a smile. "Clara, you're the winner at life now. You're a master of calligraphy, you control 2 businesses, and you're the head of Sterling Manor. Now that's a perfect life." I listened to her teasing and smiled, finally at peace. I shook my head and said, "True fulfillment isn't about power or wealth. It's about letting go of hatred and protecting those we hold dear, while doing what we truly want." In the past, I was trapped by hatred, planning every move for the sake of revenge. But now, my revenge is complete. I only want to manage the Sterling and Vance family businesses well, pass down Grandma's calligraphy, and honor the charge she left me. Evelyn nodded, her eyes full of agreement. Ethan stood beside us, watching us tenderly. Then he said softly,
"From now on, the 3 of us will stand by one another. Whatever comes our way, we'll face it together, and protect this peace and glory."
The 3 of us stood side by side, gazing at the distant rice fields and hills. The autumn breeze carried waves of rice fragrance. Sunlight spilled across us, warm and soothing. The Vance and Sterling families had a bright future. Those dark days had long since faded into the past. At last, I escaped the fate of my past life, and let go of my hatred. I began a brand new life of my own. From here on out, my days would hold only peace and joy.